Baby born at 5 months, and how she is today is awesome. Courtney Stenstrud and her husband call their fun-loving, spunky daughter a miracle. The now 3-year-old girl was born at just 21 weeks and 4 days gestation. She may be the most premature known survivor to date, according to a case report about her birth published in the journal Pediatrics last week. In the United States, most pediatrics and obstetrics societies agree that 22 weeks of gestation is the lower threshold of viability, and many doctors recommend against assessing for viability or resuscitating babies born younger than 22 weeks due to a low chance of survival. Full-term babies are born at 39 through 40 weeks. Before a medical emergency led to the early birth of her daughter in 2014, while still in the antepartum room at the Methodist Children's Hospital in San Antonio, Texas, Stenstrud said she searched online for any other mothers who gave birth at 21 weeks. There were stories of 22, 23, but nothing about 21-weekers, so I knew that there was little to no survival or viability at 21 weeks, said the stay-at-home mom, now 35. Just after Stenstrud gave birth, Dr. Kashif Ahmad, a Mednax-affiliated neonatologist at the hospital and lead author of the case report, counseled her about the baby's extremely low chances of survival and initially counseled against resuscitating the baby. Stenstrud listened as she held her 15-ounce girl in her arms with the umbilical cord still attached, she said. Although I was listening to him, I just felt something inside of me say, just have hope and have faith. It didn't matter to me that she was 21 weeks and 4 days. I didn't care, Stenstrud said. As he was talking to me, I just said, will you try? And he said he would, and 3 years later, we have our little miracle baby, Stenstrud said. I don't tell her story a lot, but when I do, people are amazed, she said. If there's another woman in antepartum that's searching Google, they can find this story and they can find a little bit of hope and a little bit of faith. Stenstrud requested that CNN not publish her daughter's name or current photos to respect her family's privacy. Ahmad pointed out that Stenstrud's daughter was one case and more research needs to be done on preterm births lower than 22 weeks. We have to be very cautious about generalizing one good outcome to a larger population, Ahmad said. It's very possible that there have been many 21-week babies resuscitated in other places that didn't have positive outcomes, and for that reason we haven't heard about them, he said. We reported this case because after this resuscitation she did well, but it may be possible that this is just an extraordinary case and that we shouldn't expect the same from other babies. We have to learn more before we can make any conclusions. She very slowly changed colors from blue to pink. Around the world, an estimated 15 million babies are born too early, before 37 weeks gestation every year, according to the WHO. Last year, preterm birth affected about 1 in every 10 infants born in the US, according to the CDCP. There has been an increase in the prevalence of preterm births in the United States, with an additional 8,000 babies being born prematurely last year due to a rise in the preterm birth rate between 2015 and 2016, according to a report released Wednesday from the nonprofit organization March of Dimes. Pediatric and Obstetric Professional Society guidelines are routinely updated to answer that challenging question of when resuscitating a preterm baby should be recommended or not. The question also remains imperative for neonatologists who care for infants' medical problems. The answer to such a question remains tangled in concerns of ethics, healthcare costs, and lifelong health outcomes for an infant. Now, Ahmad hopes this latest case can help guide the pursuit for the right answer, he said. In the new case report, Ahmad and his colleagues describe how they resuscitated Stenstrud's daughter and how she needed prolonged care in the neonatal intensive care unit, known as the NICU. She wasn't discharged from the hospital until 126 days after being born. Stenstrud went into early labor due to a premature rupture of membranes and a common infection of the placental membrane called chorioamnionitis, according to the report. When Ahmad and his colleagues entered Stenstrud's labor and delivery room, they were not expecting to resuscitate the preterm baby, he said. But when the mother asked we do everything for her daughter, despite having no reason to believe the baby would survive, I just made the decision to proceed with a vigorous resuscitation, Ahmad said. So we placed her under an overhead warmer, we listened and we heard her heart which we were not normally expecting, he said. We immediately placed a breathing tube in her airway. We started giving her oxygen and really pretty quickly her heart rate began to rise. She very slowly changed colors from blue to pink and she actually began to move and began to start breathing within a few minutes. By 2 years old, even though she was smaller in size than her peers, Stenstrud's daughter achieved scores that were average for a child around 20 months on Bailey-III tests, according to the report. The tests intended to measure child development up to age 3 assessed her cognitive, motor, and language abilities. For this little girl, we say that her fine motor was age equivalent of 20 months, Ahmad said. That is what we would expect the average 20-month baby to do, he said. She was at that time 24 months, but as we noted in the case, if you take into account how many weeks early she was actually about 20 months corrected. She did not develop any auditory or visual impairments or cerebral palsy, according to the report, and she now attends preschool.